Now call the 2016 special meeting of City Council to order February 16th. Mrs. Hoffman, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Meyer.
Here.
Mr. Burke.
Here.
Mr. Dunhoff.
Here.
Ms. Skidmore.
Here.
Ms. Sudkamp. Ms. Pitts. Ms. Kyle.
Here.
Ms. Cahill.
Here.
Mr. Cahill.
Here.
Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Mr. Blankenship.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is our bids. Mr. Viox.
Yes, sir. I'll preface the reading of the bids with this little explanation. We originally were going to take bids on first phase of Riggs Avenue, and we got the plans ready, and the Water District decided that they needed to relocate or rebuild the water main, so it got put on hold. Next priority was perimeter, and we started working on it, and the Water District decided they needed to replace the water main there, so we shoved that one off, and the next one we had priority was Spring Valley Drive, and fortunately, the Water District didn't need to relocate the water main on that one, so we're moving forward. We're about 2 months behind, so we thought that the meeting tonight was going to be in the order of the committee meeting and then the council meeting, and we thought the committee could make the recommendation right away tonight and we can move forward because we're falling behind. But in light of the fact that they got in the reverse order, I'm presenting those bids tonight, and hopefully you'll act on them when we get done. We had 4 bidders. The first bidder was Straight Edge Construction Company at $531,601. Second was JPS Construction Inc. at $535,290. Third was M&W Excavating Company, $554,197.50. And last was Paul Michaels and Sons at $651,388.75. If you go back to the first sheet, you'll see that the bids were under the estimate, and the total there is under by $3,734. I'd like to recommend we award the work to Straight Edge Construction Company and move on with Spring Valley Drive.
Make a motion to accept the bid.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Cahill. Any discussion? Yes.
Have we used the low bidder before?
I know we've used a low bidder before. Is that what
We have not.
you mean Straight Edge? Have we used Straight Edge?
Oh, the question is about Straight Edge? Straight Edge has been a bidder here in town before. They never have been the low bidder before.
Okay.
They've currently been doing work in Florence, Villa Hills, and other cities that I'm familiar with, so I don't have any problem with them.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is under legislation. We've got an ordinance regarding the job descriptions and wage scale.
An ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, an ordinance repealing all prior job descriptions and titles, and an ordinance establishing new job descriptions and titles for all city employees, as well as the adoption of an amended pay plan for all new job descriptions and titles. By summary, this repeals all prior job descriptions and titles as the title indicates, and also adopts new job descriptions and titles for each position within the City of Erlanger. The specific job titles created in applicable department are set forth below in summary by title. The pay band is attached as Exhibit A, and the entire exhibit is this roughly inch of paper here sitting at the mayor's side, which is a more accurate and thorough description of the job descriptions of each one of these positions, as Mr. Fields had presented a month or so ago.
All right, do I entertain a motion that we adopt? Motion by Mr. Dunhoff, second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Be a roll
Oh,
call.
and I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry. Roll call vote. Thank you.
Ms. Skidmore.
Doesn't matter. She puts it in red.
Ms. Cahill.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dunhoff,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, motion carried. Next item is another ordinance, the towing and vehicle storage text amendment, first reading.
This is an ordinance amending the Erlanger, we will catch that typo on the second reading, zoning ordinance adding vehicle towing and auto repair as a conditional use within the BP zone. Specifically, it's adding vehicle towing and auto repair as a conditionally permitted use within the BP1 zones.
All right, I ask that Mrs. Hoffman please note in the minutes that we've had the first reading of this ordinance. Next item is a municipal order regarding surplus vehicle.
So the municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82.083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. Attached is the vehicle that is in question is a 2000 Ford Horton ambulance, and the reason for disposal is age and mileage. Disposal method is sell to another governmental agency.
All right, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance, or this municipal order? Motion by Mr. Dunhoft, second by Mrs. Kyle. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is a municipal order regarding the franchise RFP authorization.
Yes, sir. It's a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing a request for bids for the award of a 3-year non-exclusive franchise from the city for the use of the public streets, alleys, and other public grounds in the city for the transmission, distribution of either or both natural gas and electricity through and for consumption within the city. By explanation, this was requested by the attorney for Duke Energy, indicating it would be of assistance to him in expediting the process through the Public Service Commission.
All right, do we have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Kyle that we accept as read. Second by Mr. Meyer. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is a municipal order regarding the city clerk appointment.
So the municipal order of the City Council of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving the appointment of Sherry Hoffman to the office of city clerk. In practicality, this appointment will be effective on Monday. I'm not sure what that date is. 22nd. On the 22nd. That is when the new pay period kicks in, as well as will give adequate opportunity to publish the second reading of the job descriptions and wage scale ordinance.
All right, do I have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Kyle, second by Mrs. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The final item under legislation is a municipal order regarding the Board of Adjustments appointment. Mr. Newhouse is not here this evening, but if council is open to this, I'd like to go ahead and still get your vote on the municipal order and then swear him in at a later date, if that's okay. All right, so are you reading that one? Mr. Wickman, are you reading that municipal order?
No.
I've got it here. This is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving the appointment of Rob Newhouse as a member of the Board of Adjustment for the City of Erlanger to fill the vacancy therein resulting from the resignation of Mike Bianchi. I feel like I butchered both of those gentlemen's names.
You did.
Probably Nihas and Bianchi.
Bianchi, yeah. That's not really. I'm just giving him a tough time.
By Frank was slow to pull it out.
Okay. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as read? Motion by Mr. Meyer, second by Ms. Skidmore. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Motion by Ms. Kyle, second by Mr. Dunhoff. All in, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. With that, then, we will open our council committee meeting. Yeah.
It won't last 4 years.
Not quite like a framing hammer, but it'll work. All right, so this is our council committee meeting, February 16th, 2016. First item on the agenda is the Public Works Committee. Mr. Cahill, Mr. Skidmore?
Yeah, so we actually have Mr. Bogart coming up to the stand up here, and we're going to be discussing retaining wall out front and also Nelson Road, the sidewalk project, something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Hopefully we can get some momentum on that.
All right, folks, we have been dealing with some issues up here with painting walls at the city building. For the last couple of years, we've been focused on the one outside on the triple east side. We've got the two in the front that we need to plan to get replaced. And we're looking at
Hey, Rick, can you turn that on? See if the mic's on.
There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Now we're good. We're looking at a total cost between the two walls in the front of an estimate of $34,110. So we'd like to proceed with those. That is a budgeted project for this year. Once that is tackled, we will move to the wall on the triple E side. So we want to go ahead and bring that up to you guys to let you know that we plan to move forward and work with the engineer's office to get that out to bid so we can get that project off the ground and get the issue addressed before we've got a potential bigger mess than we have out there. So if everybody's okay with that. Okay. The next thing is, if you recall, we had a resident come out from Nelson Road and discuss the need for a sidewalk out on Nelson from Wingate on down to the end. And we would like to go ahead. We've done a study with the city engineer's office. We've got an estimate in on that for $95,602.84. And talking with City Administrator Fields today, we would like to shift some monies around on a project that we had and get that to put out to bid as well so we can get that project underway and get that addressed. I know that's a big concern with the residents out there, very much an issue for the pedestrians in the area because currently that stretch there's no sidewalks and very much a safety concern for them. So with your all's approval, we would like to move forward with that as well.
All right.
I think that's a good idea. We worked well with that community back there to get those right-of-ways obtained, so it's a good move for us.
Good job, yeah.
Yeah, if you remember, we gave that property owner that came forward a plan, and he went to the property owners to make sure they were all going to cooperate, and apparently they are.
Yeah, absolutely. They're on board, and so while we've got them cooperating and excited, we'd like to get it off the ground. So, oh, absolutely.
Good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for now.
I see a lot of heads nodding. We don't need to take any kind of vote on that necessarily, do we? It seems like everybody's in agreement. All right, yeah. Okay.
All right, and then if you weren't here earlier, Ed will do wildlife removal now on the side, so we've got another skill set added. So.
No gibbon. Oh, is it two birds with one ladder, you said?
Yeah, that's right. Got two birds with one ladder.
With the help of Tim Black, right?
All right, thank you, Mr. Bogard. Next item on the agenda is the Economic Development and Finance Committee. Mr. Blankenship, Ms. Spitz.
I'll do it. Can we do it? If everybody remembers, in this year's budget, we had a facility study budgeted to be done. We have not put that out for bid yet. What I've handed out to you, you have a paper in front of you called Scope of Work. All right, there's two different sections of this. One will be for all of the facilities with the city of Erlanger. Plus, the one in the back is one for the firehouse location study. We've been talking about the need for a new firehouse for an awful long time. I have conferred with the fire department on this scope, and they're okay with it. So we'd like to go ahead and put this out for bid. If anybody has any questions, we'll give a couple days. You can look at this and review it. It's pretty extensive on our facilities. It'll give us hopefully somewhere between the 5 and 20-year range is what we've asked for our existing facilities and any upgrades that we need to make to them over the next few years. Again, like I said, a minimum of 5 up to 20, what we have to do. Also, it's going to take into account the growth of the city, hopefully, and any need for new facilities that we may have. So It's pretty, I think, inclusive of everything. I've shared it with a few people and staff. They're all in agreement. A couple council people have seen this already. So if you have any questions about that, or if we can move ahead and go forward with it, with the RFP out, and then probably in a committee meeting, hopefully maybe in March, we can bring those back and see what kind of response we got to that request for proposals.
Is this going to, the only question I have about this, is this going to stay with the Finance or Economic Development Committee, or is there a need for a special committee?
Well, that was a question. So
Yeah,
yes,
I
I think we'd had some discussions before with maybe creating a special committee to look at that, to see. So I don't know how the mayor feels about that, but I know we'd had those conversations, never really made any decisions. We were putting it on here tonight. That's what we were trying to look at and say, where do we put it tonight, just to be, discussed.
I think that sounds like a good idea.
I'm just saying I know the fire station is going to be a big piece out of there, and if, I'd like to at least have one of us involved, discussions that are.
I think it would be appropriate for one of you to chair that committee as the Fire and EMS committee, the two of you, Ms. Skidmore, Mr. Meyer.
I would also like, and I think appropriately, the Public Works Committee being on that. All of our facilities now are being maintained by Public Works, so I think having somebody from their committee on that also would be a good idea.
I agree.
We're going to have an ad hoc committee.
Finance still gets to be a part of that, right?
Yeah, and then finance does have to fund it. That is true.
So make sure we're still part of it.
Yeah. So.
Mark, is this?
Raise hands, volunteers.
This study that we're doing, because one is a location study and one's a facility, I mean, you've outlined the facility stuff very well in this, but is this two different RFPs? I mean,
well, we're going to put it out, but I think the way we'll put it out is they can bid separately on those. We'll take separate bids on those, because I think, and we were looking at even trying to maybe include the parks and all of our other land in this.
Okay.
But we were looking at, we know it's going to be different expertise when they come in and see it. So there may be a company that possesses the expertise to do both. There may not. So it may actually end up being two.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Renee and I were just discussing, we'd both like to be involved in the,
Okay.
in the ad hoc committee.
All right, so
I won't speak for Public Works.
Both be on too?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody can know.
okay, Randy and Corrine. Then Tom and Don, do you both want to be a part of that?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got 6 for starters. Okay, so then there would be a hired, is that what you were saying? There would be an expert?
Yeah, we're going to, what we'll do, I'll get with the attorney, and we'll come up with the RFP to put it out, and we'll put it out in a manner where you can bid on both, or you can bid on them separately, and to see what the expertise comes back. And then we'll have to vet those to see who actually possesses the expertise to give us both.
It seems like it would make sense to have people from fire and EMS as well, part of that. Members of the public. Would that make sense? Citizens?
Yeah,
Citizen representation.
You can put on anybody you want.
So now we're getting up to, what are we up to, 8, 9?
At least.
Why don't we, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, this is, we're looking, this is not a long term, this is a short term, and we want to probably look at these things, get some evaluations done, make some decisions before the July budget. I think if you're putting 9 people on that, or 10 people, that's an awful lot. I mean, I think at some point we need to make some decisions on one representative from each committee if we're going to do that, especially if we're going to add the public input. That's just my opinion.
Now, just to clarify, I am just thinking on the firehouse portion of that.
Correct.
I'm not thinking on the entire facility study.
Yeah, but I still think that still, are we looking at, do we have a projected date for this? I mean, for this firehouse project? Is this a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 2-year plan, 1-year plan?
Oh, it's been in the 3-year plan for an awful long time.
Yeah, I know that.
And it just keeps rolling over from budget to budget.
I saw some drawings from 2008.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think this will go in 2 phases, and I think once we put out the RFP, then we're going to come back, and then we're going to have to pick a company to do these, to complete this task. Then when we come back and we get that information, I think that may be the time to open it up to a few more people to get some more ideas into it to see. But then we'll have some decisions to make. I mean, getting the RFP out, getting those back and then vetting those companies out, then getting the study back. So, you know, hopefully we can get this out and have something back, I would hope, by the end of March, the 1st of April. And then we can decide, you know, how we're going to move forward with the budgeting. We've put monies in the budget every year. We just haven't spent them.
Yeah, I know.
So it's there. You know, we can roll that over again this next year and do the same way. But this will be a plan, at least, to go forward and see.
I think that's a great idea. I just worry about putting too many hands in the initial response of this, and making this the perpetual three-year plan.
Right.
You know, we need to start making decisions on this, whether we're going to move forward or not. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of difference, because when you look at this, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Well, when you look at this in the scope of work for our facilities study, I know Public Works has been talking an awful long time. If you've not been down to see the Public Works facilities, it's in dire need of some upgrades. Also location with it, and looking at the growth on the east side of town. They've wanted an auxiliary building on that side of town. So hopefully that part of it will also be included in this about the future growth. So, I mean, there's going to be several, I believe, in here to get a lot of public input about where we're going to put these things, if in fact we need them, and that 5, 10, 20-year plan working out, because I think there's going to be more needs than just the firehouse. I think when this comes back, it's going to talk about that.
Okay.
You know, so the one thing that you'll see that was not in here, I just said future facilities, but we did not say anything about a community center. We did not say anything about a senior center or anything like that. David Hahn and I went to Frankfurt this week, and we met with some grant people. And I can tell you, to build those facilities right now, the money's not there. That's exactly what we were told in this. You know, that money just doesn't exist on that federal level to apply for grants to do those kind of things. So, you know, if we do something like that and we're looking at that need, that's something that's going to have to come at a later point in time, I think, to look at and discuss. And that would be definitely something that we need to get some citizen input about if we want to move forward with something like that, because that's going to be a huge project.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think this isn't something that we have to decide tonight. This can be a work in progress. We can fine tune this committee as we go.
Right, I think the important part right now is we're moving forward with trying to get an RFP together.
Agreed.
Do the study.
All right, then the next item on the agenda is the Codes Building and Zoning Committee. Mr. Dunhoff, Mr. Burke.
We're going to turn this over to Mr. Hahn. He's got all the answers.
All the answers, good.
You told me that in the office, right?
No pressure.
Okay, just a little bit of history on the electrical inspection fees. As some of you know, we have here at the city what's known as expanded jurisdiction, which allows our department, myself as a building inspector, Mark Stewart as a building inspector, to do the inspections that, per the Kentucky Building Code, are designated to be inspected by the state housing and building department. They give that authority to us to be able to do that, since we're certified and have people here and fire folks.
Kind of a quick outcry from a lot of mayors on that, and we asked that we have time to bring it back to our councils, and I guess they heard back from enough cities that they've said that they are not going to raise the rates as they had discussed at this time. So if that comes back up, then we'll readdress this, and maybe they'll adjust those rates too, because, yeah, as JD had mentioned, I mean, some of those rates were going up 86% and more, you know, so.
Some of them doubled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of them doubled, yeah, that's right.
Well, that's good.
So, yeah.
I even went down there.
Okay, so then, does that?
That's satisfied.
Okay, good. All right, so then moving on, we've got the in-home businesses.
You want me to go? Do you want to, though?
Go right ahead, sir.
All right.
I handed it out.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a copy.
So everybody's got a copy. We've been getting together a little bit, and we'll let Jack and David kick in here, but we got together and made some changes to the requirements for home businesses. We had some requests for this, and you know, times have changed. A lot of people are working out of their homes, so we tried to make this try to fit what present-day circumstances are to allow people to do more business out of their home. I'll let Mr. Gatlin go over the changes.
Yeah, so I have here, I thought it'd be easiest to just kind of go through a draft ordinance of the changes that were made, and believe it or not, it had been several years, I think about 25 years, since this had been looked at. And obviously, as we all know, a lot more people are working out of their home in different capacities now than 25 years ago. So if you go through here, some of the changes that are being proposed is under A, no more than one person not residing in the home shall be permitted to be engaged in the operation of the approved home occupation. If you go to number E, changed it, or proposed change is the selling of any commodity shall be ancillary to the home occupation and done primarily through the internet or telecommunication. And then there's 3 paragraphs that Mr. Hahn has specifically added. No signs other than what is mentioned in paragraph C, which is a placard, shall be permitted. Under I, all home occupations shall be licensed by the applicable local, state, and federal agencies. And then under J, all persons operating the home occupation when required to hold professional licensure and/or certifications must be properly licensed to provide services in accordance with all applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations. And that's the proposed changes. Is there anything else we wanted to add, Dave?
I think that covers it. Mark, do you think that reflects pretty much what we spoke about?
Yes.
I had a question about the section, or paragraph C in section 1.
Go ahead.
And this kind of goes back to the building and zoning training that was here. They were talking about that.
The what, I'm sorry?
There was a building and zoning training that was held here, and they were talking about specifically signs, the Supreme Court decision. Are we even allowed to regulate content that feels content-based?
Right. Well aware of that.
So should we make any adjustments to that? Or?
Well, there's a, yeah, so this just has to do with size, not content, and there's a global sign ordinance that is being sort of passed around that should be, I think, ready for prime time, that virtually all of Northern Kentucky, I think, will be asked to pass in the next couple of months.
So you're saying it can't necessarily, we can't say that it's a nameplate?
Well, we can't say what can be on it, right? Other than the name of the, did I read that right?
Well, I'm very familiar with that case. I do a fair amount of constitutional law. And, you know, the issue that municipalities got into is when they restricted one type of content but not the other. So if they say, you know, I'm a lifelong Democrat, well, but you don't, you know what I mean, where it becomes content-based. The current sign regulations, to my knowledge, are size-based, and that's referring to size. And all this is saying is that they can have a placard with their name. I mean, I don't think that's really falls under the purview of that case.
Okay. I'll leave it to those who know more about it than me.
All right. Any other questions or discussion on that? All right. Let you review. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. You're a good man.
All right, the next item is under the Progress and Revitalization Committee. Mr. Cahill, Mrs. Pitts.
Yeah, so I believe this is on the agenda. We just want to have a discussion. This came up. We had the presentation of the logo and just trying to decide where we're at and how we're moving forward with this.
All right, my impression of this, well, shortly after we had this last presentation regarding the logo, the person who was leading this cause from the inside the city was Mrs. Hopkins, and she, I don't remember if it was shortly before or shortly after we had this presentation, announced her resignation. So,
and all that sort of thing. So part of that, so then every 3 to 4 years, they come and assess that program to make sure that we're keeping up with all of our training and all this thing. The one thing this year when they came up, their issue was the electrical inspection fees, which we get from them. The electrical inspectors are state certified people. They're not naturally city employees. But there's two companies out there, one's in northern Kentucky and the other one's in Ohio. Is it not, Mayor? Isn't IBI in Ohio?
Yeah, it is.
And so there's two companies in this area that do these electrical inspections. So we've always contracted with them. The mayor signs the agreement, and then we just have them do that. For whatever reason, this year, they want this in an ordinance form for us to be able to do that. So I've talked to Mr. Gatlin some time ago about that, and he says we can just incorporate their fee structures into an ordinance and get that done. So that is the only reason to bring that up, so you know that an ordinance is coming that adopts that, and in essence, that just gives us still the authority to have that expanded jurisdiction. Okay. I hope I didn't confuse you too much.
I think that makes sense. So the first reading would be planned for the next regular council meeting?
March.
Is that what the idea would be?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great, thank you.
Great.
Wonderful work.
The next one on the PDS fees, that would be yours, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
If you want it.
Where do we leave that?
Well, I mean-
There were some questions that were raised.
We talked about it. We said we all agreed that the fees that they were trying to charge were way too high. But I don't know where we left it.
Yeah, I think that's, we tabled it because, part of it was because Mr. Hahn wasn't here. I know Mr. Meyer brought up a question about why the city applies, is that right?
Yeah, I don't
Versus
think we had
the,
discussion.
property owner? And I don't necessarily have the answers there, but I think I can take a stab at this. In the case of the Palm Beach building, the city applied for that because the text and zone amendment that was sought there incorporated several different properties, so there wasn't necessarily one property owner to file for that. Is that when the city gets involved, when there's more than one property involved?
Just stay out there, Dave.
If I understand, the question is the fees that we pay to PDS. Okay. On text amendments, the city's, a municipality or the city has to be the applicant.
Okay.
A property owner cannot be the applicant for text amendments. So we would have to be the applicant, so therefore, I guess we could go back and say they have to reimburse us for those things if we're doing it for a particular company or a residence. You know, that, I guess that would be up to you or the attorneys to, if that can be done. The map amendments are typically initiated by a company.
A property owner.
Or property owner, yes. And it's my opinion that should be probably paid for by the person doing that request, and have them go down and be the applicant. They can be the applicant on map amendments, and let them be the applicant, and then it just follows its natural course and comes back with a recommendation from the Planning Commission, like we always have heard in writing, and then the city decides on that. So, unless, of course, the city does an area, a citywide, if they're going to change the whole city zoning, and the city is the applicant in doing that, which we can do, then, in my opinion, we should pay for that.
Yeah, so like in that case, it would be like they've done it in the past, like Vision 2020 or things like that, where they've done widespread.
They've done
zone
widespread
changes.
things, and the Planning Commission itself has done them in the past. But the applicant for the cities, and then the cities are just able to piggyback onto there without paying and
Okay.
and so on.
That seems to make sense. Does that?
That's what he's saying, but I don't think that's what, I thought what we were talking about was the letter that we got from Area Development
Right.
District telling us they were gonna raise all the fees to everybody. And
Yeah.
we said those fees were astronomical, and we wanted to have someone look at them and make a decision what we need to do. David was out that night, ill,
Yeah, so we want.
and I know you were supposed to get back with him. I thought that's what this was.
Yes. Yeah, so now, just to,
Am I right?
You're right, Jay.
Yeah, you're
that
right.
is, yeah, thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, I was just trying.
So in the meantime, PDS has said that they are not going to follow through with raising the rates. They've heard enough from enough municipalities that they've at least put it on hold for now. This originally came up in December, and there was, this has been put on the back burner for the most part, and my intention was that this would get resurrected once we had someone to fill that position again, or fill some of the things that she was doing. And this, part of this is also the position that we have modified there. We're calling it public relations and marketing, and this would certainly fall under the realm of that position. And so my impression was, once we bring that position, or once we fill that position, that this work would be completed. But I'm certainly open to speak about it more this evening. Mrs.
How
Cobb?
much did we have budgeted for that item total?
Back in October, council approved spending $5,500 to explore different options.
So just to explore.
Yeah, coming up with different concepts. There, I think, a letter dated January 19th, I'm sorry, an invoice dated January 19th from Tischbein Design was distributed.
And then we paid them, right?
Yes. $5,125.
Now, I thought this would include whatever he comes up with that we agree with, and we didn't agree with that. So we still pay this, and is he coming back to?
Right, so we never really took a vote necessarily. We had a presentation. Agreeing wasn't necessarily part of the, part of his contract. It wasn't necessarily his responsibility to make us all agree. His idea was to come up with different concepts. Now, this issue is part of the KPI under the community liaison position. And Becky had brought together the members of the leadership team, and the logo that was decided upon was the logo that was agreed upon by the leadership team over the course of about a month or 2 month process. And so there's some of the options are shown up here, kind of the stages that they went through. And I wasn't part of these meetings, so I don't necessarily know how we came to what we came to, but what was decided upon, Mrs. Hoffman can also show us when she scrolls through these.
And I can say I'm not so sure we picked one. We picked three. Was it three we presented to council that night? 3 or 4?
Yeah.
So we narrowed it down. We did not decide upon one. We just thought, the leadership team together, that those 3 or 4, or however many you presented that night, would work on all of our equipment, our uniforms, stationery, things like that. And that's what we wanted to see and make sure of, if in fact it would do that and look good on the existing fire trucks, existing police cars, things like that. So that's the ones that we looked at and we narrowed it down. And I'm not sure how many we narrowed it down to. Are you, Sherry?
Can you pull up that presentation too?
Yeah. So whatever that presentation was that night back in December or January, those were the ones that we had narrowed it down to. I'd since shared some of the rest of those that we were presented with, because there were more than those 3 or 4 that we were presented with.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, I know Becky had said that we couldn't really design our own logo because we don't have the equipment or whatever, that they have this,
Right.
whatever. So since he's obviously getting paid for this part of it, if we change the logo, is that covered under this, or is it going to be a whole new bill?
These were just designed. The way I understood this, these were designs, and the designs that we were going to move forward with. And then he was, if in fact it was one of these designs, then we would be given that design in all the different forms that we needed to use, whether it be on a business card, like you see maybe some of that, on our welcome, on the side of our vehicles, on the welcome to Erlanger signs, on everything. We would be given whatever logo that we decided upon in all of those formats. He would provide those. But we just never did decide on one. So, and I'll tell you, I've had some conversation, well, I didn't have this conversation, but emails back and forth with Mr. Tischbein, and I just told him this was tabled and that we would get back with him. And after that, we got the invoice, and that was the work that was completed so far.
So I guess my question is, if nobody agrees on any of these designs and we want him to come up with a few more, is there an additional charge?
I'm going to say yes. I believe there would be.
Well, the bottom of the invoice says total to date.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that implies that we've just made a drop in the bucket so far.
Well, and I would guess that if we asked for some slight modifications to these, that would be made without.
Because we said, what, 5,500 max is what we were going to spend on it, and he's aware of that.
I don't know. I don't know if he is or not. So I'm not going to try to rehash, all the item, or what I remember at least, what led us to this point. But, we were looking for something to try to brand the city. Right now we have 10 or 11 different logos, and trying to pull things together so all the departments are using the same logo. We've got the same logo on our flag as we do on our letterhead, as we do it on our business cards, and trying to pull things together so it's all the same. And finding a logo that is strong enough to be on a police car, but friendly enough to be on the letterhead, that was part of the challenge of coming up with this. Something bold but pleasant. But
So his job is just to create a logo, not to actually go through and then give us whatever we need on the computer to make our own things. Okay.
Yeah, so from where it is right now, this could be available in different formats. Like for embroidery, if we were to embroider it on a shirt, that's a different type of electronic format as it would be to put it on letterhead, or as it would be to use for screen printing. And I think part of the issue that Ms. Hopkins had before also was that the logos that she had been using were modifiable, so they were getting stretched and pulled in different directions when they'd be used in different formats, whereas these would not necessarily be. These are scalable, I guess. You can make them larger or smaller, but it's always going to be the same logo.
Before we table it, just because it's been a while, is there people on council that didn't want any of these, or?
I remember Patty after but this was
Oh,
after
the
the
tape
discussion was
dispenser, yeah.
over.
What?
What was
That's
her
that-
comment?
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
funny.
Like an upside-down tape dispenser, and then
Yeah.
that's all I can
Yeah,
see.
so
That's what she said, looked like an upside-down tape dispenser, and we all cracked up. I mean, because I never thought of that until she said that, and I'm like, whoa.
And
Yeah,
then
it
that's all I
does.
saw.
So, yeah, I don't remember any of those being brought up in the meeting, but I did hear that after the
It was
fact.
after the meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to have them sent to me again, if they can.
Send,
Email to me.
sure.
I'd like to look at them,
I think I can do that.
please.
Sure. Anybody else?
So no.
We can
so
send
you
it out
guys
to
didn't like
everybody.
Any of the ones he picked? Are they picked?
Say that again?
You didn't like, no, none of them?
I'm not speaking for you, but I'm speaking for myself.
I didn't like, I like that right up there, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief Wilson,
Yeah.
come up here. Seriously. And if you look at that police patch, you know, and that was designed several years ago, and we used that patch with that. That's what we incorporated in that patch when we designed it, was that.
You gotta turn around and.
Yeah. You got to model. Come on, model. But that.
You can twirl. That's what we make the kids do at homecoming, twirl.
That's exactly the one that's there.
Breath ain't longer.
And on the flag, it's just different colors in red, white, and blue. I'll tell you, in ordinance, the only one that's adopted is that red, white, and blue logo that's on that flag right there. And the only department that it's adopted to is for general government and administration. That's it. Everybody else is free to do whatever.
I thought we said that night that somebody else had the star, and that's why we didn't like that design. I mean, it's been so long ago, but I thought that's what somebody brought up.
I think it was. I think Ludlow.
Cities had a
think
star.
Ludlow used it.
We wanted to be different, yeah.
But no, let me feel it. I miss it.
Yeah, I think I'd,
Why don't
you know,
close down and let all of them look at it?
Let's see your.
But that can be incorporated into anything.
I agree. I mean,
Especially like these little
we can pull that
documents,
back into fire and public works.
Give them all to go on the same.
I would sure feel a whole lot better if we didn't replace that.
I think we should use that.
Okay.
I don't see anybody.
Send that one to me too, will you? Or just send his arm.
Send his arm.
Sure.
Chief, can you give Councilman Burke a patch, please?
Patch on the
Thank
back.
you. I'll see you in the morning.
All right. Yeah, if everybody remembers what brought this up, the whole thing, and it wasn't so much the departments looking differently, it was our welcome to Erlanger signs and our street signs. I mean, we have many different ones out there, and if you're looking at it, some of them will have what Rick and Ed have on back there, the city Public Works logo. Some of our street signs have that on it now, and some things have just gotten carried away. Some of them have that, and so it's a lot different. You know, that's what we were talking about, just creating that identity that when somebody looks at it, says, "Oh, okay, we're in Erlanger now." We might know where it's at. You know, we went through, I can't tell you how many for the front wall out here, Rick. What do we do with that? Just trying to get the lettering on that front wall, you know, with the lights on it now, finally, to do it. Because we put that off and put it off and put it off, waiting to say, okay, are we going to have a new logo? Or are we going to have something to put on there? And then finally decided to go with just the city of Erlanger. That's a real fast people going down there 40 miles an hour going past that. I don't see it a whole lot, but that's one of the things. And if we're doing things like that, we need to adopt something.
You brought it up in a meeting the right way. You made a comment that if we look at Florence, and I mean, you know, everything they have is the same logo. Their police cars, their public works, everything in Florence, their signs and everything is all one logo. Their letterhead's the same. If you get a piece of letterhead on it, it's the same thing. It's on their police cars, it's on their public works trucks, it's on everything. And that's what we're trying to get to. We're not trying to be like Florence, but at the same time, it'd be nice if we just have one logo instead of 9 logos.
They're trying to be
Yeah.
like us, Johnny.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, also, too, I think our intention as well, you know, in discussing it, was that these be changed over time, you know, through attrition. Right. So as vehicles get replaced, then they get brought back with the new logo. Not necessarily doing like what, I mean, Florence went through it. They spent a ton of money. Right. I know Covington just did the same thing with their new logo, and they spent, I think, over $250,000 in changing everything over. I don't think that would be wise.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying to pick something and then stick with it is what we need to do.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was the goal here.
So is this the time to put the committee? I know that Ms. Skidmore and I have been talking a little bit about it and forming a committee, a council, and have it done. And, you know, citizen input into this one is going to be, I think, you know, this maybe will be the one that this is what we should do, and looking at it to see.
They have to look at it, so.
So you want to chair that?
See?
All right? All right. We'll look for an update then.
How many do you want on this committee?
Less than 100.
Okay, does anybody else have a comment?
More than 10. Well, we talked before, I think, as staff members, and I had told Rick this morning a little earlier when we were meeting, and not to let Joe kill me, but our sign shop, Joe Daugherty, I think he should be on this committee as far as staff goes, because whatever we come up with, he's going to be responsible for making. So if you would add him to that committee, that would be greatly appreciated.
And one from each department.
Yeah, somebody from each department.
Yeah.
I'd have one from each department, that way they all have a say-so in their logos. Because it's gonna affect every department. Fire, police, public works.
Alrighty then.
All right. Any more discussion on the logo?
Accountant Joe is part of Public Works, or you want somebody else? Okay.
Anybody can come, so it doesn't make any difference.
It's yours, right?
He'll start showing up at these meetings now. If he gets volunteered when he's not here. That's right. All right, any other discussion on that?
Yeah, but all the department heads are here, so if you would get somebody, and please send that information to Mrs. Skidmore, who you want representing your department. That way you can go direct and.
All right.
Looks like Lieutenant Bowles is going to be the fire department. He just looked at it. He got a look back there, so. You didn't know what you was getting into when you came to this meeting, did you? Huh?
Were you involved in the last one?
All right, then, if there's no other discussion, then I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Motion?
Motion by Mr. Dunhoff, second by Mrs. Pitts. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.